Today for the Dash Talk, we have a lovely panel. We have our senior pastor, Pastor Mona. Woo! We have Beverly Cohen and Celine O'Connor. Let's give it up for the Dash.
Well, it is an honor to sit up here with Celine and Beverly, who I've known for quite some time. I can't even think of the number of years. But we wanted to just have a real discussion just about life's transitions. And I sit here as a 52-year-old woman, and I look at Sister Bev as she's my forerunner, and I honored you last year as a woman who came in and helped me at such a critical time in ministry, and and I just love when we get together and we have very rich, deep conversations. And Celine, there was a season in her life where she had asked me to mentor her, but we could just never get it together. Remember that season? And one day I was looking for an assistant, and I was in Sunday service, and Celine was over in the back, and the Lord said, ask Celine. And so I asked her, and she was available, and it was a short season, but what an amazing season. And in that season, I remember Cam, who was one of my goddaughters. She was probably 4 at the time, and she came up to me and she was like, I have to ask you a question. And if you know Cam, when she was 4, she was just such a serious little girl, like just all these like what seemed like adult questions. And so I got down at her level, and she was like, are you really my mother's sister? And I was like, yes. She was like, no, I'm serious. Like, are you really my aunt? And I remember leaving, we were downstairs near the woman's bathroom. And I remember it was that place that I was like, I have to stay in their life forever. Because when I answered her question, I knew that question was so packed. She wanted to know, because Celine comes from a small family, and she wanted to know that I was really her mom's sister, and I was not going anywhere. And so I determined, and Celine determined that, all of our relationships go through stuff, right? So we determined that it didn't matter what we were going to go through, we were going to stay connected, and we've stayed connected. And Cam is 15. She'll be 15. And we have some real great, the last time I was at your house, we had like a serious conversation where Cam had she had a little meltdown, teenage meltdown, but we worked through it all. So I just felt like it's important for us to have these kind of conversations. And Celine is in her 40s, Bev is in her 60s. I sit in the middle of both of them, not just on the stage, but I sit in the middle of life's transitions. And so I'm a forerunner for Celine, and Bev is a forerunner for me. And so we're going to talk about some of the things. And as you journey with us, you can learn some lessons as well. Amen? Amen. Because that's how we learn, right? We learn from each other. We learn when we're honest. We learn through transparency. Sometimes we want to keep things hidden, but the most important thing that you can do is once you say what you're dealing with, the enemy can't hold it over your head. So I like to say to people, I love when young people are honest with me, and they say, hey, I have a problem with weed. I'm like, hey, girl, we can deal with the weed. What else you doing? I live with my boyfriend. Girl, we could deal with that. Let's just figure out how to get you out of there. Because if you're praying for a husband, he ain't it, because he ain't asked you to marry him. So I mean, that's how we're just going to talk about real stuff, okay? All right. So I'm going to start with Celine. Celine, you are in a major transition right now. And so I just want you to share that with the women because it's very exciting. And I know that there are probably some other women that are maybe thinking about what you're about to accomplish.
So I am currently in a transition of completing a dual master's degree in theology and social work. And so this is the end of an 8-year journey. I went back to get my undergraduate degree. I was trying to knock it out in 2 years because we're always like, I'm just going to go in and get this thing done, right? And then life sets in, but you don't quit. And so I didn't quit. And so I completed that and then have gone through the past 4 years in the current program and am graduating in 3 weeks on May 18th. And so the transition is just managing what has come, the challenges that have come up. There have been a lot of reasons to quit. I recently went through an experience where I thought I was going to lose my apartment. And I chose to trust God because I said, Lord, the only way I can do grad school is if it's fully paid for. And so when I applied, I kept looking for scholarships. Lord, where is it? Where is it? And so, because I knew I had heard from the Lord regarding going, and there have been times that I've questioned it, but I knew I heard from the Lord, and I kept looking, where is it? And so I applied, I didn't see it. And so the school contacted me and said, we have a scholarship we want you to apply for. And not only did they fully fund my tuition, but also paid a stipend for my living expenses in the process. And that is amazing, and there have still been challenges along the way, and it's required really humility because before I was working, and I think, as women, I know I am like, I want to have it all covered, especially being a single parent. It's like I want to have everything taken care of. I don't want to ask for anything. But man, I'm grateful for the journey because it's really allowed me to press into the Lord like never before. Press into prayer, ask, when Dr. Caroline Leaf was saying, talking to the Lord, what did she say, 6 times in a minute? Pressure will do that. You'll be constantly asking the Lord, what's next? What do I do? And you will learn when not to move forward and to wait. And so that's what I'm grateful for in the journey. And now, again, just asking the Lord, okay, now what's next? But in terms of my apartment, just having to even figure that out mid-semester and ask the Lord, okay, you gave me this apartment, Lord, so what do you want me to do? And just following as the Lord led. And, sometimes, even in prayer, I'm praying, and it's like you just want the sky to open and your needs just flow out, right? It's like, Lord, just open the windows of heaven and let it all fall down, but it's one step at a time. And I know we say that and we hear it a lot, but literally learning to take one small step at a time, one semester at a time, one course at a time, one challenge at a time, and really trusting the Lord. And he's just shown up. It's required having to ask like never before. And so it's really a place of surrender, of like, okay, either I'm going to be prideful, right? Or I'm going to submit to the Lord and trust that what he tells me to do, that his word stands and it's eternal and it's generational. So this is not just for me, right? But it's also my daughter watching me go through this journey, and having her to have a desire to set goals for herself and learn how to trust God in the process. So.
Thank you, Celine. And so, Beverly, I know you've definitely traveled down that road, and it was some time for you. So if you can, share, your journey, and then when you began to pray for transition, and what did that look like?
Yeah, I actually I didn't start college until I was 40. I was able to get a corporate job right out of high school, back in the day when you could do that with a high school diploma. But as I was trying to move up the corporate ladder, even though people were confident in my ability, it was always you needed the paper. You needed that degree. And I fought it tooth and nail, like, I'm good enough. I don't have to have a piece of paper to show my worth. But one of my managers, she was very wise. And I thank God that he's always put people in my path that will speak to me. And even though they may not have been saved, but he will put people in your path. And so I thank God for the counsel that he gave me. And this particular boss that I had said, take advantage of the fact that this company is going to pay your tuition 100%. And I was like, well, at the time I had 3 children. I think my youngest was just, I think Ashley might have been 2. And I was just turning 40, going through a divorce. My life was spinning out of control. And I'm thinking, how can I go to school as an adult when I was the worst student when I was in high school? But anyways, with the encouragement, I said, you know what? I'm going to just take one class. I'm going to just try one class. And I did that. I went to Northeastern for about 8 years. And I was working on my bachelor's. And in the process of working on my bachelor's, I had another, one of my VPs said, Beverly, why don't you go to grad school? And I was like, because I don't have a degree. I haven't even finished undergrad. And he said, you don't really need to finish your undergrad because you have so much work experience. He said, that speaks volumes, and actually told me to go to Simmons. And I registered at Simmons, and I'll tell you, God moved because I applied like at the beginning of the summer, and I got accepted for that September class. And so that was a 3-year journey. But all my children, I mean, they were either helping me with homework or my youngest one, I used to take her to class, thank God, and they would let me take her to class. She would, come along with me on the days that I couldn't find somebody to take care of her. So even though it was a struggle, God was really opening up doors for me. And the minute I got that piece of paper, oh yeah, my salary went up overnight. And I was like, oh my God, I was holding back. And that's really what was happening. But I thank God for his faithfulness of helping me to continue to move toward that goal. And so any of you out there that are thinking about advancing your education, or even if it doesn't have to be a degree, but if you're going to go for a certificate, it's really important for you to invest in yourself. And I think even listening to Dr. Leaf talk about that, you have to keep your mind active. No matter what age you are, you have to continue to keep your mind active. So I really encourage everybody to seek what you're going after and give it your all. And God will make a way.
Yes. Thank you. So, Celine, how has it been with returning back to school, taking this leap of faith? That first step that you took, it opened up a door for you to get a scholarship and a living stipend. But how was the journey? You talked a little bit about there being challenges. How was it challenging as a single parent?
That's a loaded question for me, but I'm happy to share. So understand that going back to school for me wasn't an option, okay? If we go back to undergraduate, the month before I started undergraduate, I had nowhere to live. Okay, so we're starting there. So an apartment, undergraduate, and job a month later. And then from there, going through the journey. And I really was, I want to say, encouraged by Dr. Leaf, because even dealing with mental illness is something we don't talk about in the in the Black community. And I was given a diagnosis that says I shouldn't be sitting here in my right mind. But I know that God is faithful, because even in the journey, there was a point where I was receiving services from the school, and the Lord said, stop requesting services and stop confirming that diagnosis over your life. Do you even understand the kind of faith that was required for me to not ask for that service? And then I'm in an institution where there's not a lot of Black women already. So I don't want to look like a fool, right? But then it just got to the point where it's like, Lord, I'll look like a fool for you. Like you've done too much for me to not submit to you. You've shown me too much. And the Lord didn't just, he doesn't just bless us, right? He does exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or imagine. And so even when I was praying for things, the Lord always gave more. When I moved into my apartment, it was a place where, I didn't have a car. And so it was a place where there were amenities. So there were places my daughter could go. We had a pool. we had things that I couldn't afford, is what I'm saying. We have a movie room in our building. I couldn't afford that, right? But that's what the Lord gave to me. And so, so going through that, those were some of the challenges I had to overcome. At the same time, going through therapy, getting healing. When she said getting healing from your past, my God, there were days where, as I'm going through healing, all I could do was come home and weep, because I had gone through life not healing, broken. And so I got through it. What really blew me away was recently when we were in, I was sitting in a classroom, and we do case studies, because now I'm going into social work, thank God, where I can hope for other women, because there are women who don't have the Lord and they're struggling. And it's like, now I can go into their homes and hope for them, just like people hoped for me. And so I lost my train of thought, but what I was going to say was, what I was thinking is, now I get to go back and serve women, but in the process, those challenges were coming up, and it required me over and over and over again to trust and then deal with the confidence. Because then when you're struggling in that way, when I was struggling in that way, I was like, Lord, forget it. Why do you want me to do this? And so I just had to believe the Lord, and I had to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not on my own understanding. Not as something that I was saying, but when I had to go to school and I had $0 in my bank account and I didn't know how I was going to get there, and my car wasn't running, trusting in the Lord with all my heart opened doors. And in a tangible sense, we always think about like how. Multiple times it would be somebody showing up, or something would come through, or a check would come in the mail. And repeatedly, over and over and over again, God showed up that way. So those challenges of experiencing those things and then trusting the Lord to overcome them, I regained my train of thought. Recently, I was sitting in a classroom, and there was a woman who, we do case studies. And so there was a woman they were talking about. And so as they started to list her symptoms, her past was very similar to mine. And she has been ordered by the state not only to be locked in a mental institution, but medicated. So the law requires her to take medication. They have to force it. If she doesn't want to take it, they have to tie her down, strap her in, and force her to take medication. And how I know God is faithful is because her story was my story. And they said, someone made the comment, she will never recover. And I said, well, thanks be to God, because I know the healer, and I've been set free. And so that is the kind of hope that I needed. And to see that there's someone else going through this, that people who are social workers are saying, we don't have hope for this person because that's how far gone things are. She cannot function in everyday life. And so those are the things that I had to continuously just ask God for help. Lord, can you take the pain? There are days where the pain is great, or the pain was great, and I had to say, Lord, can you just take the pain, because I can't carry this. And I'm able to say that the Lord would just lift up the pain for me to do the next thing, for me to take the next step. And the Lord would open a door for me to take the next step. I'm graduating. When you said earlier, I don't know how people don't believe in hell, because when you're walking in obedience, hell gets unleashed. Last week, my car broke down. Okay, Lord, your car broke down. What's going to happen? I have to graduate. I have to get to class. Made a phone call. Somebody showed up. Not only towed my car, but fixed it. But again, it was, I can't do that right now. But I believe that when we trust God, He shows up in ways that we cannot imagine. And those are some of the challenges that I've faced.
Whew. I'm so sorry. I'm a weeping mess because I just feel like, Celine, I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm so proud of you. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but when you walk alongside of your sisters and you see how much they've grown, we were in a situation, I think this happened last year, and Celine and I and another woman sat down and talked just about accountability. And it was a conversation I had with Celine so many years ago. And I remember walking away from the conversation thinking, Celine done grew up. I was like, my God. I remember calling her saying, Celine, you are going to be such an amazing counselor, such an amazing social worker. And sometimes we're going through pain and we're thinking, why do I have to go through all of this pain? But you go through the pain so that now as a social worker, she can sit when everyone else is saying this lady's not going to make it. She can just look and say, oh no, she's going to make it because I made it. And sometimes, we're asking God to get us out of situations. I'm not saying, you guys know our life is lived publicly. It wasn't easy, having a daughter addicted to drugs. But now that I'm on the other side of it, it's like I can say to someone, no, you can make it. You can make it. I've been through the storm. So I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Celine, and I'm thinking about Cam's question, because we give up on each other way too quick. Can I get a witness? We're living in a time, it's just like, oh, yeah, wait, you guys aren't friends anymore? Huh? You know what she did to me? And it's so stupid. It could be the smallest thing. And I think that's what Carolyn Leaf was talking about. We have to operate in love a little better, right? We got to operate in love. So, when Cameron asked me that question, all I could think was, I don't want to disappoint this little 4-year-old girl. And then, me and Celine went through some stuff. It wasn't cute stuff either. We went through some stuff, but we always came out on the other side because we determined that we're going to come out on the other side. And so to sit here, because I've walked that road with you, but to sit here and see you on the other side and see you, I've seen the struggle. I've seen the times that you've gone down, you know? And that's what she's saying. There were times where, and Celine is so transparent, she went down. There were times of depression and all kinds of things, but she just kept getting right back up. And I just encourage you. I mean, she's a living testimony of what can happen in your life. I don't care what you're facing today. So I just, as you were sitting here talking, I mean, I just feel like such a proud big sister. I'm like, God, wow, whoever knew when you showed me this woman across the church and said, go ask her, because God will tell you to do some crazy stuff. And you'll be like, is that God saying that? No, I think that's me. I don't know if that's God. Is that God? Oh, come on, y'all, right? You know, go talk to that lady and pay for her groceries. Oh, that can't be you, because this is my shoe money. But I was like, okay, God, I don't even really know her, but okay. I was like, hey, would you like to interview for a job? And she was like, okay. And we were both kind of like, okay, but I think you were praying for a job. I was looking, and there we met, right? But anyway, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Can I just say, too, that, all right, this is where it gets weepy, y'all. I just thank God for you. A lot of the fight was when someone comes into your life who believes in you, and you don't know what that feels like. You fight it. Accountability is not easy. And that's why we get so convicted by the word of God, because it holds us to a standard, right? But I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for your love. Thank you for just pouring out into women. This is not just a conference. She doesn't just put on events. You have walked alongside me. And I just can't, I'm just so grateful for that. So I just want to encourage you too. You don't know who you are for someone. When someone upsets you, don't go talk about them. Like, pray for them, love them. You know, it's because of this experience and because of the Lord being in places where you're like, I can't even be ashamed anymore. Like, you can just show compassion to someone else. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your encouragement. I remember where there were seasons where I felt overwhelmed and you were like, keep moving forward. And I'm like, keep moving forward, you know, but you were saying it because you believed in me. And I just am so grateful for that. And this is my sister. You're my big sister, and I love you, and I'm grateful for you.
Let me get some more tissue. Guys, this was not rehearsed. We didn't even plan this. I wasn't going to be all weepy today. Oh, my eyelash is about to... Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me just look at myself real quick. Because we are on video. Let me just see. Whew, okay. All right, let's get some happy over here. Okay, if you were at the service last Sunday, and I spoke about a woman, Sister Bev, who came up with these documents that tore my life up. I want you to talk about how you have come into this journey of researching your ancestors. And I mean, not just for yourself, but you're creating something. I mean, you are going back and getting like all the history that a lot of us have lost. And so can you share some of that with us?
Yeah. Our family's really close. So we grew up like a village, but still, even though we grew up close, there's still a lot I didn't know. My grandparents migrated here from Cape Verde over 100 years ago, and they never went back. So I really didn't know too much about Cape Verde other than, you know, what you hear. It was a very Cape Verde was a very poor country, and it still is, even though it's a developing country. But when they came here, they came because there was a famine. And so they actually came here for survival, and that was one reason why they didn't look to go back, because there really wasn't anything in Cape Verde. So I wanted to research my family. My mother and my grandmother both died at 58 years old. They were young women when they died in today's standards. And so I didn't have the opportunity to go back to my mom and ask her about, our family and her bringing up and so on and so forth. So I really wanted to know more about that side of the family. And we have a very unusual name. Everybody asks, what's your mother's maiden name? And I'll say Bulu. And they say, what kind of name is that? And I'll talk to other people that are from the Cape Verde Islands, and they'll say, oh, you're from Cape Verde? I never heard of the name Bulu. So it always was a question on, who are we? Nobody, we don't really fit in. And so that really was the quest, is to find out who my grandfather's people were. And he came here from Cape Verde. He was young. He was, I think, in his 20s. And he came with 4 cousins, we were told. He came with 4 cousins from Cape Verde, and they ended up in Duxbury. And we grew up knowing the family. They're Fernandez. They were all Fernandez, with the exception of my grandfather, who was a Bulu. And so I don't really know how they're related. I don't know the blood relation, but they always said that they were cousins, and we just accepted that. But as I started to do the research on the family, I was led to go back to Cape Verde. So I just got back about 2 weeks ago, and it was really something to step foot on the land of my ancestors. And just to see all that they came through, going there and seeing the country. And the island they came from was called Fogo. And Fogo woo, we got some Fogo people. Fogo means fire. And that particular island has an active volcano, and it has erupted 5 times. And just recently in 2014, and it did devastate 2 of the villages that there are people that live on this volcano crater, and it devastated those 2 villages. So just to be able to go there and see the land and to see what they came from, and I was sharing with Pastor Mona, the Lord put it in my spirit that, there's beauty for ashes, because they came out of that and were able to come here and really create something out of nothing. So actually, my grandfather came here with the 4 cousins, the Fernandez, and they were able, I don't know how, which I'm researching, but they were farmers. I did find out that their livelihood was farmers. They were able to purchase land in Duxbury, Massachusetts, and there's quite a bit of acreage that they bought. And when they bought the land, it was swampland, and they built bogs, and they started to harvest cranberries, and they created this co-op with what we now know as Ocean Spray. And I didn't know the history of cranberries, but cranberries actually was not an industry. As it is today. They actually helped build that industry. So on the backs of our ancestors, they built this cranberry industry. And so I really wanted to go and find out about who these young men were that came here and were able to take something out of nothing. And here we are generations later, we're reaping the benefits. And as I was sharing with Pastor Mona, that our family still owns our land in Duxbury, and found out that her great-grandfather actually lived right next door to my grandfather. And
Can you imagine them like looking down right now? Like, look at our great-great-granddaughters down there sitting next to each other on a stage. That's amazing.
it is.
That's so amazing.
it
And we
really
would
is.
always say that we're probably related somewhere down the line because we're all related. I told y'all on Sunday, don't go on Ancestry.com giving your saliva if you don't want to hear all your family secrets, because all of us got some family secrets. And listen, if you do it, just say, you know what, that was them. I didn't know Uncle Bob was really, I don't want to get into it, but it doesn't require therapy because everybody makes mistakes. This is what this is what we learned today. We're going to operate in love, and every 10 seconds, in between the 10 seconds, you can have a few little bombs, but then get back to love on the 10th second, and then go back to love, and then, you know what I'm saying. But the interesting thing is Ocean Spray. I think they owe us some money. What? How about reclaim that? We need to dig. Like, I didn't realize that. You didn't tell me that the last time we met about
Because we only had a couple of hours.
I know.
We probably could
I
have
know.
forever.
But this cranberry thing, right? That's amazing. We got to look into that. I know Uncle Dominic. Uncle Dominic's in the he's in the Ocean Cranberry. What is it, Ocean Spray?
Ocean Spray.
He's in the movie. That movie ain't getting us no money. We trying to reclaim stuff. We need to write Ocean Spray. They owe us some dividends. Yes, thank you. Well, we were, before we came up, we were talking about something, and I think this is a good place for us to get ready to kind of wrap it up a little bit. We were talking about your name, and so let's just talk about that conversation, because I think it's a good conversation for those of us that are here. Because in the whole naming, and I'll just explain where the naming ceremony came from. And we see in the Bible that names have such significance. That's why there are books where, there's all these names. You're like, why do they list every single name? Because a name is important. And so I think it was last month, this couple asked if I could participate in their child's naming ceremony, which is the naming ceremony is a ritual in Nigeria. And so I had never done a naming ceremony, and my first inclination was yes, because I had prayed for them and they got pregnant, and I was so happy for them. And then on my way there, I was kind of mad at myself because I was like, I never did this before. And I was researching it, and then finally she sent me all the paperwork, and it was like a 4-page document. I was like, this thing is serious. I'm going to be here all day. And I had just come from church, and so when I got there, it was the most beautiful thing that I have ever participated in. What they do in the Nigerian culture is that every person that is closely connected to the family gives a name or multiple names to the child. Not just any name, because in some communities, one of the young girls came up to me last night, as a matter of fact. She said, my name is made up. I said, well, let's figure out how they make up your name. Part of it's my mother's name, part of it's my father's name. So I said, let's figure out the definition of your father's name, the definition of your mother's name. Then we could either make up a new name, we can make up a definition, we could do whatever. But they have to give the child a name that they prayed about along with a meaning. So we called out over, I don't know, it had to be 50 names over this child. And every time we called out the name, we had to say the meaning. And the mother said, so first the grandmother prayed, then the grandfather prayed, then I had to pray, Then we had to sing a song. After we sang a song, then, this was serious. After we sang the song, then I had to learn how to pronounce some of the names. I had to learn how to pronounce them because they were like, you cannot say these names wrong. They're very serious about this naming ceremony. Then the father prays, then the mother reads a scripture, we sing a song again, then we start calling out the names again, and the aunties, the uncles, whoever named that particular name has to call it out and say what that name means. Serious, right? The mother said at the end, every name that we have given this child is a different attribute that is spoken over his life. So when you see, sometimes you'll meet a Nigerian, right? And their name will be Blessing. You're like, blessing or charity, love, peace, joy. Like they're serious. So every time you say blessing and you call that child's name, you're pronouncing a blessing in their life. So that's why a naming ceremony is so important. So it's so important for you to know your name and understand your name and understand the definition of your name. And if you don't know the definition of your name, then you ask God, what should the definition of my name mean? And then you begin to pronounce that over your life. So we were talking, and you and Beverly, you say what you shared with me and Celine and how we chimed in.
Well, when my mother named me, she didn't have that type of a community to add to naming me. She actually liked the name of the lady in the next bed that had just delivered a child. And so she thought, oh, well, that's a good name. I think I'll name my baby that. And she named me Beverly Jean. It wasn't until I was in second grade that I even knew Beverly was my name. Because everybody called me Jean, and I share that with Pastor Mona because Mona is her middle name. And no, Michelle.
It's a joke name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll explain that later.
Oh, okay. But
family stuff.
So for 6 years of my life, I only knew the name Jean, and so when I got to second grade, I had to take on a new persona, and that name was Beverly. And so when I was saying to Pastor Mona, when I was looking up she asked me what did my name mean, and I said it means meadow dweller among beavers. That's what Beverly means. So I went to look up my other name, which most of my family calls me Jean, and that means God is gracious. So I said, okay, I always identified more with my name, Jean, than I did Beverly. And then Pastor Mona shared with me about...
Celine and I.
Celine.
Because I was like, wow, meadow dweller amongst the beavers. Because beavers are so industrious, right? Those little beavers, and this is the thing, is that you are such an industrious lady. Like, you are like a beaver. Like, it's so real, right, Debbie? It's so true. It's so true. Like, and you build dams. Like, you prevent people from drowning. Like, what? She is a life coach. Come on. So I was like, this would be such a great way to end, is because sometimes if someone else looks at your definition, they'll see something else, right? Celine, what does your name mean?
It's so funny that you asked me that, because I was just sitting here thinking, I've been reading in the book of Matthew. I had to write a paper. I would love to sit here and be like, I was just studying the book of Matthew, but I had to write a paper. And so it was, I chose kingdom language in the book of Matthew. So Matthew is a writer that uses kingdom on earth. He connects the kingdom of God coming to earth. So I just started reading, and I was like, wow, God. So like, we can realize the kingdom in the earth. And so when John is talking about making a way for Jesus, he's like, the kingdom is coming, but what he's talking about is a radical change in lifestyle. And people are looking at him because they're like, He's not a person of authority. He's not a rabbi. Like, he's been in the wilderness, y'all. You know what I mean? And so he is like, make way for the kingdom. And so realizing the kingdom of God, the Lord was speaking to me, is a part of that is healing. Like, Jesus ushered in the kingdom, right? And so a part of that was healing people. And I was like, wow, God, that's what I want to do as a social worker. I want to realize the kingdom of God in the earth. I want to see heaven on earth, and I want to see people healed. And so when I looked up my name last night, it was heaven.
Oh, wow.
Heaven on earth.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I'm reclaiming all of my heaven and pushing back all of the hell.
Well, I am sitting between heaven on earth and a beaver. A gracious, what does Jean mean again? God is great, a gracious beaver. Because I'm telling you, she came here, I don't think anyone understands. I had so many people calling me for counseling. I just couldn't do it. Run administration, do everything else. Ooh, that Pastor Matt, he can work a sister. I couldn't do everything. And she came and just carried, oh my God, you carried a load like a beaver. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Isn't this amazing? See how she was trying to reject her name. You were trying to reject beaver. I'm telling you, you're going to research a beaver. I know, oh my gosh. So the name thing is, I'm telling you, it's so serious. So my real name is Michelle, and my middle name is Marie. I'm Michelle Marie. Let me tell you where Mona came from. I was bald. I was bald when I was born, and I didn't have hair until I was like 2. I don't know. So my grandmother thought it was, and I love my grandmother. But this whole naming ceremony just kind of really like made me start thinking some things. So my grandmother, she thought it was funny, and she would be like, because Mona Lisa, with the Beatles, Mona Lisa with the long, beautiful hair. Remember that song? Was the picture of Mona Lisa. Okay, so in the picture, Mona Lisa has long hair. And so my grandmother, because I didn't have any hair, I used to think it was a cute story until like the naming ceremony. And so, but here's the thing, is that my grandmother, it was a joke, but then everyone kept calling me Mona. And then I'm telling you, my hair was like Rapunzel. My hair was down to my butt, which was not great living in the inner city where people didn't even know what Cape Verdean was. I didn't even know what Cape Verdean was. And so I was teased, they would pull my hair. It was just terrible. And one day I was just like, cut it all off. And my mother was like, I don't think you're gonna like your hair when it's cut. I said, please take me somewhere and just cut all my hair off. And then maybe people will like me. And guess what? They didn't. I had short hair, and this is before natural hair. Natural hair is so accepted now. It was before natural hair was accepted. I looked like a boy. It just was not good. And I've gone through all kinds of therapy over it. It was just not, but anyway, I reclaim my name along with all of you. It was not just for you guys. It was something God had to do in me. And so I reclaimed Michelle, I reclaimed Marie, I reclaimed Mona, I reclaimed all of the names that have ever been spoken over my life, but I gave them all new definitions, okay? And so the naming part, I mean, you just heard Celine, you just heard Sister Bev. How powerful is that? How many of you really took the time to look up the definition of your name? Show of hands. Ooh, you guys are good. Did anyone learn anything new that you said yes? Let me hear. Where are the someone over here too. Oh, here we go. Our mics, yay.
So my first name is Dina, and my mom's name is Piris. I'm Cape Verdean too. So
Wait, is this your mom?
Huh?
No, you didn't point. Oh, because you pointed. I was like, your mom's here now?
oh no, my
okay.
hands are. So I knew about Dina, the only daughter of Jacob, and her story, and when I learned about Dina, they gave me a she was a bad girl. She went and sleep with somebody and all of that. So I never, when they asked me, oh, Dina, what it means, I'm like, I don't know. It's from the Bible. I don't tell the story. And as a little girl, I was always like in the middle of adults, and they call, oh, you too high, you to this, you to that. And when I heard the story, I'm like, oh my God, it's because I'm Dina, voluptuous or whatever they gave me. And yesterday, when I was searching the meaning, I saw a Hebrew meaning, and I clicked that, and it said, from the story of my life, I'm the type of person that takes care of everybody. And I went through a season of my life where I felt I didn't deserve what I went through. And for the first time, I felt like, oh, I'm going to avenge, or I'm going to revenge, all of that. And it came to me. I'm like, no, I'm going to leave it to God. I'm going to give it to God. And yesterday when I looked, it says in Hebrew, my name means avenged. So God has already take care of everything that I thought I was going to do. And the other little name, because I'm always working on it. As I mature, I was very impulsive and all of that. And Piris means son of Peter. And we know Peter from the Bible. He was always the one to first jump off and say whatever he needs to say. But I see that I gave it another meaning. I speak the truth. I'm not afraid anymore to tell my story. I'm not afraid anymore. I can be impulsive, but I'll take my 10 seconds, as Dr. Caroline says, and speak from the Spirit.
Amen. Amen. There was someone over here. Oh, right there. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pastor Mona. You don't know what you're doing in my life. Even if you're far away from me, even if I never met with you, Janella is my witness. I love you so much because spiritually you're talking to me all the time. Even when I'm far away, I always call Janella to tell her how much you're doing for me. I'm going through a lot, people know. But I don't think I'm responsible for everything that I'm going through. God knows people can judge me, but I know who I am. God knows who I am. The devil is a liar. But my name, I realized last night, my name means God's helper. Thank you. But sometimes I feel like I'm not helping God the way I'm supposed to. I always want it to be really in God. Like I told Janella, Pastor Mona is a gifted child. God gave her all the gifts. I'm not jealous. I love her. I love everything she's doing because she's helping others. I would love, like you say to Jesus, I'm not jealous, but I want everything you have. But I really like your spiritual life. But somebody, when I'm telling the person, like my husband said last night, why? It's good. But I said, I don't feel like I'm helping God besides singing, you know what I'm saying. And he said, no, you're doing it. Because you build everything, but you're not using them. Everybody in Haiti are using everything that I got. They're not my family. They hurt me because, you know, how people are. But my sister said, you're a child of God. God put you on the earth to build things for the others. Maybe that's the way I'm helping.
Amen. Amen. And I think that's a powerful way for us to kind of end, is that once you know your name and you know the meaning of your name and you have an understanding, then the best thing that you can do is take one day at a time. And I think, you said that earlier, Celine, just one day at a time, one moment at a time, because a lot of times we'll look at someone else and be like, oh, I want what they have. You don't even know what they went through. Oof. Oh, that's all I'm going to say. Yes.
I never really cared for my name, but I said I'm okay with it. And I looked it up, and if people asked me what my name was, I would say, Denise. And what does it mean? I don't know. Former dentist, and it meant something like goddess of wine, dedicated to Bacchus, which I think is a pagan god or something like that. So I just sort of, and I've always thought about maybe switching it up a little bit, and I just never got around to it. And I said everybody knows me as Denise. So I want people, encourage them to dig deeper. I just dug deeper and found a whole new meaning of my name from the Lord. So don't just stop at the surface. Dig deeper. Denise, meaning you are strong in material matters, determined and stubborn. You have good business ability. You are a good worker, steady and practical, a builder who takes responsibility. It just sounds like me. And, it's just Denise is dedicated. In Greek, it means Denise is dedicated to God.
And
So
you know
just
what,
please-
Denise? Just you digging deeper shows that's the meaning of your name.
Oh, God.
But this was the appointed time for you to dig your
Oh,
well.
my God. I'm so much better. And I've always called Jean. I've been knowing Jean for a long, long time. And I've never called you Beverly. Somehow, I've always just when I heard her name was Beverly Jean, I just stuck with Jean because I thought I was a part of the family too, because I grew up with them. And I've always called her Jean, and people say, who are you talking about? And I go, oh, Beverly. But then I go next breath, Jean, so.
But now use both because she is a gracious
yeah.
beaver.
Well, when I do switch up, I'm not gonna switch back.
In the meadows. Hey, listen, let's not talk about the Psalms where he says, he maketh me lie down in the green pastures. And you are a beaver that knows how to lay down and relax. Every year she goes on vacation. No, I mean, look at you. Don't y'all want to look like this when you get older? One time we had a Zumba class and she came out with her Zumba stuff on. I was like, oh. I was like, her shirt was tucked in. I couldn't even tuck my shirt in. I was like, oh, the hope. She's the hope of glory. We have one more and that's it. And we're going to end it up. It's 4:00. Hi, Dima.
Hi, how are you? So my name is Nigerian. It's Wanedima. And it sounds like somebody sneezed. And I used to hate my name as a little girl, so much so that I changed it to Dima. So I told everybody, just call me Dima. Stop. Yeah. Just call me Dima. Kindergarten through high school, no one wants a Dima. And I found out my full name, Wanedima, it means it's good to have a sister, or it's good to have a sibling. And then I looked up the Dima part means good, and the Wane part is sibling or sister. And then I dug deeper. I remember I told everybody, call me Dima, that means good. But then when I say Dima, people like, you mean demon? And try to, what? It was just awful. Yeah. But I realized it means it's good. I'm good. And then in Arabic, I found out Dima means downpour. So I took the good and I added a downpour of goodness. And so that stuck with me.
Listen, can you imagine if we stopped calling each other our names and just called each other like our definition of our name? And I would be like, hello, heaven on earth. Hello, fresh meadow, gracious worker, you, beaver. I mean, that is so, I'm telling you, when I did that naming ceremony, it changed my life. I really pray that you take your name, you take your birth certificate, you take everything that you learned today from Carolyn Leaf on switching your mind, reprogramming your mind. I'm telling you that I went through a season, it was probably about a year, and if Pastor Matt, if he were in this room, he would probably have you laughing so hard because he was really worried about me. Because he'd walk in the room and I had like 8 vision boards. I'd stare at them every day because I was like, I need to reprogram my mind. And then I'm gonna just play a little bit. I can't play the whole thing because you guys would really think there is something wrong with this lady. But he would come in and I had recorded probably 10 different messages to myself. Because what I started noticing was negativity kept trying to come in, and I was like, I need to reprogram my mind because I don't want to think negative things. And so the way that you don't think negative things is, after you like go to a party or you have like a really good event or something happens in your life that you're really happy, if you record yourself saying like confessions while you're in a really good mood and then you listen to them in the morning, in the noon, in the night, then what's happening is you're reprogramming your brain to begin to think happy thoughts all the time. And so he would come in the room and I would have this thing playing. And when I listen to it, like right now, I've reprogrammed my mind so much that when negative thoughts come, I know how to cast them down very quickly. So, and this is real. The other night, this was 2 weeks ago, Pastor Matt was sick and we're asleep and he just was, and I don't know, I was so tired. I was getting so mad. I was like, oh, and I didn't even care. I had like no compassion. And I was just, and in my head, I was saying all kinds of stuff like, oh my God, can you go in the other room? I was getting angry. So finally, I just jumped up. I was like, I just went storming down the hallway. And then something happened at work that day. I had an appointment the next day. I was mad at everybody because I told them on Sunday to cancel this thing. I don't like to waste money. They didn't cancel it. We still had to do it. And then I was still going to have to do it again. So then it was 2 days of my time that I felt was going to be wasted. So I was just a mess. And I needed to go to sleep because we had this photo shoot. And if you take pictures, your anger can show through a picture, even if you try to make it look happy. So now I'm sitting in our living room. I'm like, I can't go to sleep. This coughing, sneezing. And then all of a sudden, I know it was God. He comes down the hallway. He's like, I have to sleep sitting up. So you just go get back in the bed. Why was he being so nice? You go get back in the bed. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then as I walked down the hallway, I said, God, please renew my mind. Because that anger was uncalled for. Like, where was your compassion? And because I listen to these things all the time, I know how to reprogram my mind. So I want to share this with you because I really believe, we have these phones. You can record stuff on your phones. So I would play this when I was taking Maddie to school, when I was bringing him home, when I would get in the house, when a negative thought would come. Anytime I was in my car, I would play. I just want to make sure it's not one that you would just really be like. Hold on.
I remember this season because you talked about it and I did it. And it works. Yeah. Like when Dr. Caroline Leaf was saying, reprogram your mind and not taking in what other people are saying. Yeah. And then I started using it to study for school. Because then I would just say all the answers and then I would just listen to it.
Oh, that's a great idea. All right, well, here it goes. How do I get it on, how do I get it on speaker? Oh, yeah, that would help, right? Oh, here we go.
Established for me. I am worthy of all blessings that I will receive. If others can receive blessings, so can I. I will adjust my thinking to be a success. I have the power to succeed. I will read books pertaining to success, money management, and empowerment. My subconscious mind is now helping me succeed. My subconscious mind is programmed for success. I benefit greatly by programming my subconscious mind. I will take actions and keep my goals to myself until I realize them. I will silently start changing my life for the better.
Okay.
I will study
So this is, okay. That thing goes on for about 10 minutes. I'm telling you, I have about 10 of those in my phone. When I would play them on the way to taking my son to school, he would be like, Mom, seriously? And I'm like, you need to do this, boy. He put his headphones on and he just roll his eyes and, so Pastor Matt, he would come into the room and he would be like, love, are you okay? And I would be like, yep, I'm just meditating. And you hear the music in the background. I found meditation music that helps you achieve your goals. And then I put it on, cable has like the music channels. So I would record with that in the background and I would tell everybody in the house, I'm recording. Quiet. I didn't care how it looked to anyone. And then if people said anything negative, my friends would say, I'd be like, no, I can't really listen to that right now because I got to stay in tune. Because when you have your focus on God and what you're trying to get to, that's what she was telling us today. And what she was saying is, I don't get into the whole church dialect. That's basically what she's telling you. I don't get into the church dialect because if you're not living it, why talk it? Because first you got to reprogram this so that you can live according to the way the word tells you to live. And so I encourage you. I mean, I'm telling you, I did that and I have about 10 on my phone and I listen to them every single morning, night. Every time a negative thought would come, I would put it on and it transformed my thinking. And so we are ending now and let's give it up for Sister Beverly and Celine.